Hello, can you hear me? Okay, so is the mic working? Because I'm about to start. Okay, so right off, when you open the software, it seems scary because there's a lot of stuff to check. But it'll be fine. So let's just create a new scene from scratch. So when you get the software, it looks weird and scary and intimidating, but it's not. The reason why it's intimidating is because Harmony is the software that's going to take you from A to Z. So with the same software, you're able to do your sketch, your rough, your animatic if you want, your animation, and also your compositing. So just to show you, I have a little example of what you can do with that. So I have this little scene, which I was able to do 100% in Harmony, so like the background, the effects, the animation, it was all done in the software. So this is one reason why it's worth to learn Harmony instead of another software sometime named Flash. How about this? It's my first time streaming with mic, so let's see, mic and music, so let's see how it goes. So this scene is the scene that I'm going to be using. Oh, thank you, Najdrek. I'm not English, so it's hard to read. But yes, that's the scene I'm going to be taking piece by piece with you later. But you can see that the background is kind of hand-drawn, and the animation is as well. But there's some cut-out elements, so like the flowers, I did not animate that by hand. It's just like things on curves. So it's really something, a software that can give you really far, and that's why it's my favorite. I worked in Flash, I worked in Animate, Maya, 3ds Max, and TV Paint, and this one was very my favorite. That's why after 7 years, it's the one I chose. So I really love that soft, and I hope that you're gonna like it as much as me today. So one of the first thing that is really hard when you're opening the software is seeing all these icons. And by the way, is the mic sound okay now? Okay, so it's very hard because there's a lot of things that you can do with the software. So the first thing that I will do with mine is to set it to default. So, you know, the windows, you can move them, you can tear them off, and sometimes you end up with an interface that looks like that. And ooh, do I see a little 3D there? Yeah, this is also a teaser for later. So when you get your interface and you don't know what to do with it, you can just go into Windows and restore default workspace, and it will save your life and make your life a whole lot easier. Oops, it just opened on my second window, but there it is. So now you start clean, you start fresh, and that's how we're gonna start together. So we're gonna see the tools, not one by one, but like the main tools together, and we are gonna have fun. So are you ready? I hope you are. So right off, the first thing that is unusual when you open the software is the timeline. So especially if you come from Flash, the timeline doesn't work quite the same as with the other software. So first we get drawing layers. And by the way, if you want to see your drawing, what it looks like, you can click on the thumbnail and it will open. Great. So in the timeline, if you draw a drawing, let's say that I'm drawing a background, which is going to be a super straight line because I love backgrounds. I'm going to add a little flower because I feel spicy today. So pretty. So that's my background. If I wanted to show for the whole scene, it's going to disappear because the drawing is only showing for 2 frames. So to make your drawing show for the whole frame, for the whole duration, go to the end and press on F5. So it's the same as in Flash. You can press F5 to make your drawing longer. Alright, so that would be my BG. If I want to rename a layer, I can go here in my timeline, Or you can go into your node view, and the node view is another thing, another reason why I love this soft so much. And there it is. Yes, I opened it. Usually people are scared of the node view, but trust me, it's a very cool tool, very powerful, and I think it's what sets Harmony aside from Flash the most. It will allow you to organize your scene way better. So if I want to rename this, I can just double click on it, on the little yellow square, and then this will appear. You can rename it to my BG. Oops, I typed on my laptop instead of on my computer. And then if I want to add another drawing layer, I can just hit Ctrl R. And it will make this window appear. So this window is great because you can create many layers as you go. You just write and you press enter, and it's going to create all these layers for you. So 1, 2, 3, 4. You see it's creating all these layers, and it's still open. So if you're making a rig, it's going to be very useful to do that. But we're not doing it that right now. So I'm just going to create a new drawing layer, and it's going to be a ball because we're going to do a bouncing ball. You guessed it. Actually, no, it's going to be a jelly. Yes. So now I have my 2 layers. They're the same that in the timeline and in the node view. So it's not that scary when you see it like that. Is the sound okay now? I fixed it. Is it okay now? Because I raised it, the volume. I hope it is. So, one thing that scares people in the software is usually the node view, but I'm going to show you how it can be easily read. So, in the node view, you have your composite. The composite is like a scene on which your actor are going to act. So you get a little scene here, like a with curtains, and and then you get your seats. So your actors are going to be dancing on the scene. Well, consider your actor all the drawing layers. And this scene is your composite. So then if you unplug a layer, it disappears because it's no longer on the scene, all right? And then the 2 other nodes here that usually scare people, it's so easy. So the display is what you see. If you unplug it, you don't see anything. And the write is simply where you're gonna write your renders. Like, what file do you want? And trust me, there is a fuck ton of files that you can output with that, okay? So today is the day where you stop being scared of this stupid node view, because it's amazing. It's amazing. Okay, so now we're gonna start to animate something. So the plan for today, I forgot to say because my mic was going crazy. So the plan for today is to animate a little bouncing jelly. Just shoot a frame by frame. After that, we're gonna rig something small and we're gonna composite it just to see how cool it is. All right. So this is my hand-drawn animation layer. I will draw my first frame, and to draw it, you have lots of choice of what you want to use. That's another big strength of Harmony is the drawing tools. They are on point. So, you know, usually when you want to do a project, you'll have to choose if you want to have vector lines or if you want to have a more bitmap look. Well, in Harmony, you don't have to choose because you get both, which is amazing. So you can mix and match both, and you can even trace lines with vectors. Because the advantage of a vector is that it's so light and it's always crisp when you look at it, and it's lighter on your computer, and you can edit it just like you want. Yes. But on a bitmap, unfortunately, just like in Photoshop or in TV Paint or any other software, once you drew it, even if the line is prettier, once you drew it, well, it's there, you drew it, you cannot change it. Well, one of my favorite features is really the fact that with Harmony you can trace a line that is both vector and bitmap. So here in my tool properties on my brush, I have this little triangle in which you can change your properties. And so if you get solid vector, you can do that. I always prefer to have my brush slightly tilted, just because it looks better to me, but it's up to you. And you can even go in textured vector. So it's still vector, but it's textured. And this, if you're not using this yet, you really should, because it's amazing. And look how good that is. And if you draw with it, you can, and you want to edit it just a little bit, you have a tool that allows you to do that. Isn't this amazing? Yes, it is. So that's crazy, and that's what I'm going to use to make my little animation today. So let's start with the first pose. All right, so that will be my first pose. And then if you want to make another pose, this is where it's different from Flash. You don't have to go in your timeline and create a new keyframe, because keyframes are not the same in the software. You can just go there, and if you press on F and G, you can switch from drawing to drawing. And if you press on G to go to the next one, your cursor automatically goes where there's no drawing. And if your cursor is where there is no drawing, it will create one. So that means that if you want to do straight ahead animation, or just to plan your animation, the technique that we usually use is get your brush, get your drawing, then press on G to create your next drawing. All right, so if I want to create my little squash, I could go here and then just start flipping to get a feel for my drawing. See, these drawing tools feel very nice when you draw with them. If you want to edit your drawing, you can do that with the select tool. You can make it squash a little bit. So that would be my two poses, and then I can draw my pose where it's in the air. And if I want to refer from the pose before, you have the onion skin, which is another thing that is usually scary when you go from Flash to Harmony, because you're like, what's going on with the world? I click on my onion skin, but I don't see no thing in my timeline. This is because we have a whole view dedicated to the onion skin. So to get to the views, you go here. So that's another thing. Harmony works with views. So this is my camera view. Here I have the tool property view, which will change depending on what tool you have selected. And if you want to move views around, you can click on the name and move them. Then you can place them back. It's very easy. So then you have to find the onion skin view. And with that, you have two choices of onion skin. You can either go with the old one, which is the show onion skin default. But you have to set it to frames, and then you can get your little handles like that. But the problem with the handles is that if you have 30 drawings, you're going to see them all, and it sucks a little bit. So I'd rather use the old onion skin for a cutout, but each time I'm doing frame by frame animation, I use the new one because it allows you to pinpoint exactly what you want to see. Yay! So what I'm doing now is just showing you the broad features, and I'm gonna explain them in more details later. So let's say I want to see one drawing in the past, one drawing in the future, I can do that. So if I go here, I'm gonna see my old drawing, and then I can simply trace my little drawing here. Perfect, amazing. All right, so now I have my 3 drawings. Okay, so now is everyone listening? Because this is a big thing. So when you go from Flash to Harmony, one of the big thing. Wait, I'm catching up with the chat. All right. So one of the biggest thing to consider is that if I want to get that pose again, because it's gonna land eventually, you want to take that drawing and you will copy paste it there. And then when you're gonna draw, if you want to edit it and add little antenna to it, you'll see that your first drawing was also changed. This is usually something that piss off a lot of Flash users. And it's normal because that's not what you're used to. So one thing that is very important to remember is that Harmony started out as a frame-by-frame animation software. We would just draw on paper, scan our drawings, and bring them in, and then paint them with the paint bucket tool. And that's what people did. That's what I did in school. So that's why if I go and save my scene to show you, ooh, so many files. Go get that scene. Okay, that's why when you get your scene, it's a folder. It's not just the X stage. So in Flash, you get just the file, but in Harmony, you need multiple folders to make it work because it's more robust. It's like Premiere or After Effects. You have to have your drawings elsewhere. So if you go to the element folder, you'll see you have 2 folders, BG and Jelly. Weirdly enough, this is the same thing I get in my timeline. So my layers in my timeline are the folders in my element folders. So that's why if you want to send your file to someone, if you only send the X stage, people are gonna be like, what are you meant to do with that? You won't get your drawings. Like, you need this. You need all of this to make it work, okay? So I'm gonna get my element folders, and then if I have my jelly here with my 3 drawings, if I open it, you get jelly 1, 2, 3. So these are the 3 drawings I created. But in my timeline, I see 4. This is because it's reusing 2 times the jelly 1 drawing, which is great because it makes your file lighter. And it's also because when we drew on paper back then, if you wanted to reuse a drawing, would you draw it twice or would you scan it twice? So in Harmony, the way it works is that you have a pile of drawing, just like you would in real life have a pile of drawing. And the one that are called to the timelines are the one that you call. It's just like you would write on a timesheet or an X sheet. Speaking of which, if you like traditional animation, we have an X sheet over there that allows you to write your drawing that you want to call. So now you have 1, 2, 3, and then 1 is back. So it's the same drawing. That's why if I give it wings, it will get its wings also on the first one because it is the same drawing. Another good way to see that is with the drawing substitution view. I only have 3 drawings. So whenever you go in your timeline, if you press on a drawing, it will paste it. This is usually very cool for hands or for mouth swaps, like that. So if you want to get this, but it's a different drawing, be sure to click on the duplicate drawing, which is located just here. So watch, if I click on it, if you watch the blue number here, which is the number of the drawing, it will change to 4 because now it's the 4th drawing I created and it's a new one. So if I change this one is not gonna change. So this is super important when you go from Flash to Harmony. The drawings in your timeline, they're just being called. It's just the timeline calling their name into existence. So that's why if you're in Harmony and you do select your drawings and you delete them with the backspace button, oh no, with the delete button, sorry, it's gone. But is it? it's not gone. It's just not appearing in your timeline. If you want to get your drawings back, you just click on it, and then it's gonna be back. Da-da-da. Okay, I'm gonna remove the wings because, you know, it's lame. So did that answer some of your questions, you lovely Flash users, in the comment section? Great, Kura, I'm glad that you like it, and thank you, Rennie, for liking it as well. So now I'm gonna open a bigger scene, because it's like a cooking show. I have the scene already done so that I don't waste time actually doing it, because I don't animate that much anymore, so I'm a bit slow now. But so I have the scene from earlier with some animation that is already done, so it's gonna be better. So speaking of node view, you know that when we started earlier, we only had, oops, we only had the composite, the write, and the display. So that's how it starts, and then it will get more complex. But don't be scared, because there's ways to organize it, and it's actually pretty easy to get around that. That's good, Nemao, but yeah, that's also great. I'm gonna talk about that later, but not now. So I organized my scene into different boxes, and in all these boxes there is different things. So that's the box for my background. If I don't want to see my background anymore, I just press on it, and I press on the letter D on my keyboard. D stands for deactivate, and now it's gone, and A for activate. So try doing that in a timeline. The reason why I say the node view is that great is because I worked on a series called Wakfu in Flash, and I got traumatized by it. Like the timeline were gigantic, and just trying to know what was going on in there, it just made me go crazy. So to be able to have the node view, I got traumatized by Maya as well. And I worked in Maya as well, so I'm gonna talk about Maya and Harmony later, in a few minutes. But yeah, so the node view really makes your life easier, and trust me on this one. You just have to build it up piece by piece. So you don't get that in 1 minute, you have to build it. So I'm just gonna make it play once so that it can buffer. Alright, so right off, what you see is that it's not the same as the video that I showed you before. Because this video is super pretty, there's lights, there's things going on there. But here, it's pretty bland. And that's because it's my work view. It's the place where I draw, where I sketch, where I do everything. So if you press on render, it will take some little while, and then voila, you have your compositing in the same software. What? What are you saying, you people in the chat? Yeah, I'm getting to the symbol system in a moment. So that's also why it's sometimes longer to learn the software, but in the end you can end up doing lots of stuff with it. And what I love the most is to be able to just take my frame and say like, I think the hair here looks a little weird, or the nose looks a little weird. I want the nose to be bigger than what it is. So you can go inside your frame, and I can just select my animation, can take the nose, and just make it longer. And the compositing will follow. That's really cool. And actually, it's not that complex, Drake. I'm gonna show you that in a moment. Like everything that is in this scene is really basic compositing. It's really basic. But I'll get to that in a moment. So you see, all this is very complex and it takes time to render. So if I go inside my work view, by the way, to switch between render and normal view are the two little flowers here. Nemao, there's already like 2 tutorials to get some light effect, I think, on my channel, but I'm gonna make more for sure. I love compositing. Yeah, so another thing that is very cool is that my scene has lots of effect, but I don't see them in my work view. If I did, it would look something like this. It would be very hard to know what's going on. So we have a node that is called OpenGL bypass, which you can connect in your scene. And the thing I connect on the left is what I see in render, and the thing that I connect on the right is what I see in OpenGL. So that's why I'm able to save so much time. But I'm gonna make a separate video just for that. But if you're interested in learning about the OpenGL bypass because you're doing advanced compositing, please poke me in private, because I'm not gonna spend this live talking about it, but it's pretty cool. Alright, so the last thing I want to show you with that scene is how simple it is to create some animation in the soft. So I'm gonna go back to my work view, and you see the seahorse was animating almost frame by frame. I did cheat a little because I'm a big fan of cheating. So the seahorse is frame by frame, but the seaweed is actually the same drawing for every seaweed. So if I click on any of these and I go inside my drawing view, you'll see that it's just a flower. There is only one frame of that flower. It doesn't move at all. What I did is simply take my flower and I inserted a deformer in it to be able to make it move. So I only drew the flower once, I duplicated it in my scene, and then I was just able to create some random movement with it. So it took me maybe like 10 minutes to animate all the seaweed, which would have taken ages to do it in another software. And now you see that it's really tweened, so it's very smooth. But if you don't like that, you can get your animation stepped. So now it's very fluid, but if you want to get rid of the tweening, you can press on that little icon that is called Create Keyframes On. And I will set it to 2s, so it's going to be stepped on 2. And now if I make it play, you see it's less fluid, it's more jagged, just like it would be for traditional animation. So I'm gonna show you all that in 5 minutes. Because yeah, I planned like a good 30 minutes of just explaining the software in general, and after that we're gonna dive in and we're gonna actually create something together. How awesome is that? It's pretty cool. Alright, and yeah, last thing to show you, actually 2 things I forgot, is if I want to create a camera movement and I want it to look a little bit 3D. I remember in Flash we had to make so many symbols and put everything in the symbol, and it was kind of a nightmare. Oops. But if I go get my camera, and I want to zoom in, I can just zoom in on my scene. And are you seeing what I'm seeing? It's pretty great because there's like kind of a bit of 3D going on there. This is because instead of cheating your camera movement by moving layers around and stuff, yeah, a lot of people say a lot of people compare it to Cinema 4D, but easier. So yeah, you can get your camera movement, and the reason why you can do that and that it's so simple, let me just put it back to where it was, is because it feels 3D, because it actually is. If I go here and I get my perspective view, you can spin around your scene. Woohoo! So I kind of build a fake 3D set with that. I know, right? Cura, it's amazing. That's why after trying all these software for 7 years, I stuck with this one. I've been full-time Harmony since like 2017. And I don't regret it. I really like it. It's worth all the pennies I invested in it. You want to know a fun fact? I actually bought the software, permanent license, like like I was like, yeah, I want that software so bad. I love it. I bought it, and like 3 months later, I think they hired me to work on the software. So I kind of bought it for nothing, but it's fine. I gave it to a friend, and yeah. So when I suggest people to try the software, I don't say it because I work for them. I decided to work for them because I love the software. And to everyone who tells me it's too expensive, girl, I paid for it myself and I don't even use it. I gave it to someone. So that's how much I love it. And it's made in Montreal, my hometown, so that's great. I mean, lots of love for all the team working on it. That was my little anecdote of the day. I bought Harmony 14. It's not even my favorite. Yeah, that would be a great idea to animate a character without a stroke. I could totally do that. Okay, so last thing about the 3D interface is gonna blow your mind. If I have this character, yeah, okay, I have this character, but I want to bring it forward, like in front of the plants, because I made a mistake. So I know that now, since there's like 3D, if I take my character and I bring it forward, it will be bigger, because in real life, if you bring something closer to your eyes, it's gonna get bigger. But in Harmony, and I remember that when I worked in After Effects on another show, I would need to move my character and then shrink it so that it fits in my screen, and there was math involved, that we had to make math, and it was like bleh. But with this software, there is a tool that's called Maintain Size, and the sole purpose of that tool is to click on it and bring your drawing forward without it changing size. So it's gonna bring it forward, it's not gonna change size. It's amazing. How is it doing that? You remember the math that I've shown you before, that you had to write like I think it would be like the size divided by the translation, and then you had to do like a cross math, and it was like garbage. Hate it. So that math, the software actually does it for you. So if I bring my little seahorse, thank you, forward with that tool, it's going to be shrunk or made bigger automatically, so that it doesn't look like it's moving inside your camera view. So that's another big thing that people need to understand about the software, is that there is actually a 3D camera that allows you to move your stuff around. All right, last thing before we get started and build something together is the way that you can cheat in the software. So I said the seahorse was frame by frame. Well, I actually lied. It's rigged and frame by frame together. Yeah, well, there's the script, but you need to go get it, and it's not, if you open the software, it's not there from the start. So that's kind of a bummer. Like, I thought that after 10 years they would have it in the software, because I still use After Effects for some stuff. Like, I don't hate it, I just hate that part of the stuff. So that's one thing. So yeah, I said that the seahorse was frame by frame, but it's not completely. So I'm a very lazy person in life, so I didn't feel like redrawing this fin all over again. So I just put it on a peg, which is like putting it in a symbol. I'm gonna get to that in a moment. And I just dragged it around. So I only drew it once, and then I just made it follow my animation frame by frame. So I didn't I didn't have to draw all these details one by one. Same thing for the eyes. I made it on purpose. I put lots of details in the eye, That's why when you render it, they look like there's gradients, there's a lot of stuff going on there. But they are rigged. So whoop, if I want to make my seahorse look elsewhere or look cross-eye, I can do that very easily. Yes, Nemayo, I'm lazy. I'm lazy. Yeah, this is like half rig, so it's still frame by frame, but for some details, you can just do it rigged. So that's another thing that I love about the soft, is how you can mix and match techniques. So are you ready to, actually I forgot one thing. You see that line? You see that line? It's vector. The line art of the seahorse is made with vector. So that if I want to change it to something else, you can even change the texture after you drew it. So if you don't know what look you want the pure vector look, or you want something with dash line, well, you can do that after you drew it, which is amazing. Yes, first thing you learn into animation class is how to cheat, Kura, you are right. And so another thing that you will like if you're switching from Flash to Harmony is it is harder to learn from the start, but all the thing you can do with it will be worth it. So you can get your line and you can change it. And so the color is also something that is very different from a software to Harmony. So that's also something we're going to cover in the next hour. So if I want my seahorse to be pink, I can make it pink. And if I want it to turn green again, it's going to turn green. And you can do that in real time, which is great. Okay, so are you ready to start something from scratch? Yes, we are. I'm gonna open Harmony. It takes a while because I'm streaming at the same time and my computer doesn't like it, but it's coming, it's coming. So if you have questions, feel free to write them into the chat and I'll answer them as I go. So we're gonna create something together today. And I'm gonna take your votes in the chat to know what we're gonna do. Okay, so I do have a plan though. We're not gonna just create something out of nowhere. We're gonna rig a little character, and that character will have a simple skeleton. So it will be, it will need to have a, oops. Yeah, okay, it will need to have a body, 2 legs, 2 wings, 2 eyes, a little mouth, and some kind of details, and a hat. But what is this gonna be? We don't know. So let's vote. What shape will the body be? Will it be a triangle, a circle, a kind of a square, or an oval? Vote in the chat. Okay, so it's gonna be a triangle. Okay, so it's gonna be a triangle, that's for sure. And I'm gonna talk to you about the shortcuts. because they're different from any other software. So if I want to get my shortcuts, most of the tool shortcuts are like that. So it's always Alt plus something. And as tempting as it is to just, because the brush, for example, is Alt B for the brush. And as tempting as it is to go inside the keyboard shortcut, get your brush and change it from Alt B to just B, I would strongly advise against doing that. And that's the thing I tell to my students in any other software. Before changing all the shortcuts to what you want, give you a good 1 week or 2 of learning the software, because you could be changing something that is super important. So in Harmony, I strongly advise you to not change the brush to just B, because B is what we use to animate and cut out to go up in the hierarchy. So if you change that, it's gonna mess the rest of your software, so please don't. And I know the Alt is sometimes annoying to just press on Alt instead of just on the letter, but one thing that you should know is that all the tools that have Alt in front of it, this is like a logic from the soft, each tool that has Alt in front of the letter means that you can use it temporarily. So if the brush is Alt B and the eraser is Alt plus E, if I just press on B, I get the brush, but if I just press on E and I don't release it, I get the eraser temporarily, and then when I release it, I go back to the brush. So that's a good tip to learn if you want to get some of your stuff to be temporary. You have to know that. All right, so the bird is gonna be a triangle. Great, great, great. So I'm gonna get rid of that. Actually, no. You see, I'm gonna keep that as a reference, and I'm gonna create another layer, drawing layer. It's gonna be the sketch, and we're gonna sketch on top of that. And you see, in another software, if you wanted to trace over your drawing, you would need to take your drawing, make it less opaque, and then start to draw on top, which is possible and it's not bad. But just know that we also have a light table here. If you press on it, it will activate your light table. So it's just like if you were using a light table in real life. This is the on and off button. And if you want to change the settings, you can go inside this little lamp and just change it and make it more opaque or not. Do it like that. I like it to be very pale. Just like so. So we're gonna start and sketch that little bird. So I'm gonna make it very quick. Hey Zelong, I'm glad that you like the F and G shortcut. Yay! Okay, so I'm gonna draw a quick body here. It's gonna be a triangular body. How about the eyes? Are we going for angry eyes or happy eyes? Yes, the way to change the opacity on your art layer is just to get your layer in your timeline and you press on the little logo here. It's like a person in a box and you'll get the opacity just there. This is for Mathias Batori who asked for that. So yeah. Okay, so it's gonna be a happy bird. And I'm gonna give it a triangular mask as well. That's cute. All right, and then it's gonna need some legs. I'm not gonna put feet yet. It's just gonna have tiny legs like that and some little wings. And now if we want to see your animation from another side, because now it looks good, kind of, but if I flip it with the mirror here, oof, it's off balance and it's ugly. So I can now make some adjustment to make it slightly better. It's always important to flip your scene, otherwise it's gonna look like poop. Okay, now the last thing, what does it have on its head? It needs a hat. It'll be a nurse crown. That's cool. Okay, so now we're gonna rig it. Are you ready to rig that little bird? So I will get my node view to make everything pretty. I'll create a composite for my rig, and a composite is Control H. I'm going to connect it here. And this is going to be my bird composite. So I'm going to rename it as a bird. I'm still waiting to be able to double click and rename stuff, but I didn't complain enough, so it wasn't fixed yet. So that will be the bird. And to that, then I'm going to create a bunch of drawings. So I'm going to hit Control R. And then that's where it's really cool. I'm going to create my body. I'm going to create my crown. Actually, I'm going to call it hat. And my beak. And then I will create my front wing. My back wing. So you can name your layer as you go. So that helps in keeping it very clean. what did I forget? The eyes. So front eye and back eye. Oh, and I forgot the face mask. Alright, so now it looks bad, right? That's why sometimes you get your node view and you're like, oh, it's ugly and I hate it. I said hi to you, dude. I just... Maybe you didn't hear, but hi, Anoop Gupta. I'm happy that you're here. Hi, Chrysalis the Silk Wind. That's really nice to all have you here. I'm sorry that I didn't notice you at first, maybe. I'm sorry. So if you have trouble with your node view, you can just select everything here and go get this little tool that will order your node view up. And this should save you a bunch of headache, because so it's going to organize. It's going to give you a little help organizing your node view a little better. All right, so then what I need to do is just to group my little drawings per family. So I'm going to put my eyes together. I'm going to bring my mask because it's also part of the face. My legs will also need to be together. And what you're going to do next is just put everything in a more or less straight line or something. Then the beak is also part of the face. The hat, I'm going to put it here. And the body will be here. So now you have all your pieces organized. So it's like a timeline. So the node view is like a timeline, but without the time, and it's not a line, but it's basically the same. So now my wires are not connected properly, but that's okay. You can just take them, cut and paste them. And we're gonna reconnect them anyway as we go. So I could have my legs. Actually, I'm just gonna do that and Control H, then this, and delete the composite. That's a little neat trick to connect your stuff together. So now we have all the pieces connected to the same composite. So is it clear in the node view, or is this still confusing? So to answer the question, when we animate in this industry, do someone trace the model sheet? It depends on the series and it depends on the time. When we are rushing, of course, we're going to trace over the animation sheet, but it's going to look a little more cheap. So in feature films, usually they don't trace over it. But in series, I've seen it and everybody does it because we just have to output so much in so little time. So I'm going to take my sketch layer. I'm going to lock it so that I don't click on it by mistake. And I will remove this one, the old sketch. So then we are ready to clean our drawing. And I'm going to make a lineless rig because that's what our friend here asked. I forgot who the name was, but somebody asked for lineless, so we're going to go lineless. So I'm going to start to clean it very quickly. I'll use the line tool because that's my favorite tool to clean a cutout character. And people think that the line tool is boring because it's just lines, but there's ways to make it very cool. So I'm gonna get my line tool, I'm gonna get it to snap to contour, which means that my lines will snap together and be closed as I go, which is pretty useful if you ask me. And if you trace, you can bend your line to make them very, very smooth. So cleaning up this little character is gonna take me seconds. And I added the little texture to my line because why not? There is a texture to the line today. So that will be my nose. I'm gonna get my eyes, and for my eyes, I will draw them with the ellipse tool. Very easy. I'm gonna take this one and just copy paste it. Oops, I forgot the little line here. I'm gonna copy paste it to the other side. And then just copy paste it in the other layer. So now I have 2 layers. And I like to use the light table too to isolate which layer I'm working on. It really helps when you build your rig. So how scary is the node view now that we are working with it? Thank you for coming, Marciage Battery. Oh, you can also start from a basic square. That's what I'm gonna do with the body, actually. So yeah, how scary is the Nildry now? Is it still very scary, or is it fine? Alright, so now I have the little mask here. It's gonna be helpful. And actually I'm gonna take the same shape for the body because I'm that lazy. And just paste it on the body. It's always important to keep as few points as possible because it's gonna make your character that much lighter. What did I forget? The legs, no, the wings. So for the wings, I'm gonna use the pencil tool to get some very nice shape. And I will copy paste it to the other side. Alright, now I just need the crown and the legs and we will be ready to rig. And you see, drawing the character will be longer than rigging it. Another cool thing you might want to try is that when you have lines, okay, the line, to make the line tool curve, you click once and then you drag, and where you want it to finish, you click on Control, and then you keep dragging and you can bend it. So it's click, drag, Control, and then you keep dragging, and does that. Pretty cool, right? So when you have lines like that that connect, you can press on T to activate your cutter tool, and you can just cut the lines that you don't need, which is pretty cool. And then I'm gonna repeat it. If you have lines that crosses like that, you can press on T to get your cutter tool and just cut them, and it's pretty darn cool. Ta-da! Just need to get the legs and we will be done. And the legs, I'm gonna make them a little fatter, because they're just going to be lines. They're not going to have like color inside them. Perfect, we are done. So I'm going to get rid of my sketch, but I'm not going to delete it. I'm just going to unconnect it. There. Alright, so I think that my line is too thin. So I'm going to grab all my layers at the same time. And yeah, I'm just going to... And to grab all your layers at the same time, it's just here. You can press on all your layers here, and then you can make them bigger. That's perfect. And then we need to color it. So there's an important thing to note about Harmony is that the layers, I know that when I was in Flash, I needed to have one layer for my line, and then to color it, we would add another layer for the color. So that would make your timeline twice as long because you would need to have the line and the artwork. So one thing that is different from Flash, again, is the coloring. So in Harmony, every art layer, every drawing layer here have 4 different levels that you can use. So I'm gonna go grab my scene with the seahorse. Oh, there it is. Not you. Oh, and by the way, this is also a rig that we're going to see later. It's what we call a 360 rig, so it can rotate and it's pretty cool. Woo! It's very cool to animate these kind of rigs. Alright, so later. But you see, each piece in your character will have the line and the color on 2 different levels. So that's something that you have to keep a mind of. So I'm gonna just select my character. I will create a color art from your line art. So this is like scanning your drawing. I'm gonna click on this. So now all my pieces, if I look at them in my drawing view to isolate them, we're gonna have the line, and if you click on the color here, normally you're not supposed to see anything, but if you press on the letter K, you will see your stroke, and the stroke are the vector art. So there's a thing here that you can do here, and you see this, if I color it, it will not have a line. So the line is on a different layer. If you see both of them, it does that. So it makes your line, your timeline very more small than in another software. So what I'm gonna do is just create a little color palette. So for now, I'm just gonna put everything in white. But I'm gonna create a palette for my bird. So the way the color works in Harmony is that each character will have its own box of colors. It's like a watercolor box, really, with your little paintbrush. And in that box, you're gonna have many colors. So this is the box of color. This is the colors, the swatches. So I'm gonna create many swatches just by double clicking here. And then if you draw with them, you'll have colors. And the fun thing is that even when you're done, after that, if you want to change the color, you can just double click and it will change your color. So I know Flash has something similar, but it's not the same, because in Flash it works per layer, but this is in your whole scene. So it's not exactly the same. So sometimes it can be confusing with if you're switching. So just so you know. So now we're going to create our own little colors for our bird, and I'm going to start by something white, just so that we can fill all the pieces with a color. All right, so I'll go back to my camera view, and I'm going to fill them all at the same time. Perfect! I'll show that in another video, but now we have all our pieces together. So now's the time to rig it. Are you ready to rig? So another big thing that is different between Flash and Harmony is that in Flash, oops, so in Flash, when you rig, you have a symbol in another symbol, in another symbol, and each of these symbols has its own timeline. Yes, it's rigging time. Oh, that's great, Kura, I'm glad that you like it. So it's like a Russian doll. So you have one that will be in a bigger one, in a bigger one. So if you want to get that symbol, you have to open this one, and then this one, and then this one. So that means with my rig that I had 5 seconds ago, where did it go again? Yeah, so if I go get back my rig, if I want to animate it in Flash, you would need to open your symbol and go in it. But in Harmony, it's everything is on the same timeline. So you can just click on it, and if you want to move it, you move it. So that's another big thing to understand as well. You don't put things in symbols. You put them on a peg. So one thing that you say in Flash is put it in a symbol. It will translate to Harmony as put it on a peg. So just for you young ones who might not know what a peg is, symbolception. Yeah, exactly. So Harmony does have symbols, but I'm not. It's more for like it's more to like if you take a Flash scene and you need to import some things in Harmony. Harmony needs symbols to be able to do it. Like it does have symbols, and you can use them for some little things, but it should never be used for rigging, like ever. It's not made for that in Harmony. So when we say put it on a peg, if you go to traditional animation, we had lots of sheet of paper on top of each other, and they were held by a peg bar. The peg bar is a little stick with pins. From the top it looks like a circle with 2 bars like that. So a peg in Harmony is something that keeps all your drawings together. So back in the old days, if they wanted to make a camera movement, they would take the whole peg and like move it across the scene. So that's why in Harmony we put things on pegs. But you can have multiple things on pegs and it's working fine. So that's why we say put it on a peg. So in Harmony, instead of being box and box and box and box, it's more like you have a big pin board where all your drawings are pinned to. So now we're going to rig our character. So instead of putting it in boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes, you can get your drawing for the body, put a pin on it. You can get your eyes, put pins on them. Your mouth is going to have a pin on it. Your wings are going to have a pin, and you will move it just like you would move a paper puppet. So that's what we're going to do. Is it clearer now? It will be in 5 seconds. All right, so first I'm gonna take care of that mask because it's going away from the body and it's annoying. It might be an outdated tutorial because I haven't seen a symbol used in the industry in a lot of time, but maybe I'm wrong. But that's not what I'm gonna show today. So you see the mask is going outside of the body and it's annoying. So we're gonna fix that right now by going inside the node library, which is that thing here. So the node library is also some scary place of Harmony because if you click on it, there's so many things. Well, you don't need to know all of what they do. Like I don't even know what they all do. But the one I'm looking for is the cutter. So I'm gonna go into the favorites and get a cutter. So Harmony is made of like 90% cutter nodes. And so this is the first node we're gonna use today. This is exciting. I'm gonna get this little node here, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna connect it. So the way that this node works is that what goes through here will get affected by what goes to here. So this is a cutter. Kura, what is the problem? What's the problem? Anyway, we see that now the mask is going over the body, but we would like it to go under the line as well. So instead of making another node for the line and the color, what we're gonna do is just get the line and the color separately. Oops. So these filters will also allow you to have your, yeah, the node library is okay, you'll be fine. So the line and the color, how it works is that if I unconnect my body, I don't see it. If I connect it, I see all my art layers. But if you go here and I make it go through the line art, you'll see just your line. And if you make it go through here, you'll see just your color. Yeah, that's actually true. You can do that, but it's not for rigging, it's for traditional animation, because what this does, it will make your rig messy and it's not that useful, but it is possible. But I will not talk about that today because it's not good for rigging. All right, so now I separated my body into two. So that will allow me to take my mask and make it appear only on my body by connecting the body in the thing that will cut the mask. So for now, what it will do is the body will cut away the mask, so the mask will stop existing. Oh, that's great that you solved your problem. That's really cool. If you have problems like that, you should go into the Discord of Toon Boom. They will answer your question. The link is in any of my videos, so you can find it there. All right, so when that does it, all you need to do is double click on the mask. And yeah, you'll be good. If you double click, it's gonna invert your cutter. So that's great. But now the problem is that the mask is going over the line and I would like it to be under the line. So what we're gonna do is just have the mask be in between the line and the color of the body. So I'm gonna shift them right there so it's easier. And I will also give them their own composite so it's cleaner. And all you need to do now is put the mask in between the line and color of your body. And it's very complex. Be careful. All you need to do is that. Because in your node view, what is on the left shows on top, what is on the right shows on the bottom. Just like in your timeline, what is on top is on top, what is on the bottom is on the bottom. In your node view, it's left and right. So that's why, that's why I love the node view so much and it's so powerful. So if you take it step by step, it's not that scary and it's insanely powerful. Just to be able to do that would have been complicated. All right, so okay, sorry, I thought somebody had a question. So now there's one thing left to fix, is that we see here there's a little imperfection because the mask is showing too close from the body. So if I remove the line to show you. So what we're gonna take is, instead of taking the whole body to cut the body, the mask, we're gonna take its color art only. So that will make it better. It's gonna fix the little problem here. Fixed it. This is because the color art is actually it uses the line art, vector art, so the color art will stop in the middle of the line, so that's why it's gonna stop from having imperfection. So that is usually how you would have your cutter set up. Oops, for your rig. But I have a video covering that, so I just wanted to show you the logic, but if you want to do it, you can check on the video for that. All right. Okay, so now we are really ready to rig because if we move that mask, it will not get out of the body. So now it took a lot of time because I was explaining it to you. But if I do it now, it's gonna take like 5 seconds. I just need my color art. I just need my line art, which are usually nodes that I have banked anyway. And my cutter with 2T. And then all you need to do is to quickly get these together in a composite, connect it here, and then you get your cutter like that, your line art here, your color art like that. And there, really quick and easy to do. Oops, I need to invert it. Thank you. Okay, so now we're gonna rig for real. It's gonna be so quick. So I will explain to you the logic of rigging. We're gonna start with the beak. So I will first take my drawing. I will go here and I will make sure that I cannot animate my drawing because I don't want to put any keyframes on my drawing. Because if you look here in my timeline, you have your drawing. You don't put keyframes directly on drawings in Harmony. It's a big, 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 big no. You don't do that. Or else your things are gonna burn and get destroyed. So what you do is you put things on a peg, just like I mentioned. So instead of putting it in a symbol, you press Ctrl P and it will add a peg to your box. So a peg is basically like moving things with a symbol. So if I move the peg, it moves the drawing, but the drawing didn't move itself. If I unconnect the peg, the drawing goes back in place. So the transformation is only on the peg, not on the drawing. All right, so that's pretty easy to understand. I'm gonna do it again. So now it works great to be able to move your beak around, but if you want to rotate it, now it's going nuts and it's not fun, right? Okay, we're still talking about videos. I'm not talking about that today. I'm gonna talk about rig. So you see that little pivot point? If you want to move it, you have two choices. You can move it with your transform tool, which will move it temporarily, but it's still there. So if you click elsewhere and you click it again, it's going to go back in place. So you want to move it permanently, and you can do that with two of these tools, the advanced animation tools. I like to take this one just because. And then if you move the pivot point with that tool, it's going to be permanent. So even if I click again, it's going to be like that. Also, you must never put animations on your peg when you're rigging, because if you copy paste them, they're going to keep their animation. So I have a whole video covering that, so I won't talk about it right now, but don't put animations on your peg when you're rigging, ever. All right, so then all I have to do is to do that for all the other layers. So to do that, I'll just select my layers, go, instead of Control P, I'll do Control Shift P, and it will create one peg per layer. Control Shift P. Like, I'm not even daring to do that in the timeline, because look how simple this node view is to understand, and compare it to that gigantic timeline. It's already getting nuts to organize it. Yeah, no, right. I said it before, but I'm gonna say it again. It's yeah, you can select all your drawing nodes, and you go here, and you can animate using animation tool. You set it to off, so then you will never be able to move your drawings again. So that is helpful. So then if I try to move my beak, the animation will be automatically put on the peg. So it's very hard to see on my screen, but there's a red dot here instead of on the drawing, so that's pretty cool. So I'm gonna remove my animation with Control Z. So then all you have to do is do the same for all the other layers. So the eye, I'm gonna just go and place the pivot point at the right spot. And the cool thing is that you can keep your tool active and just go in between your pegs. So it's really quick to just set your pivot points to the right place. The hat is gonna go, oops. Be careful and take the pivot point instead of the tool like that. The body is gonna be here. So it doesn't take a long to rig a simple character like that. I usually do it in like 10 minutes max. Perfect. Now if I move my pieces, I have a beautiful rig. So are you following right now, or is it too complex? I hope you are. So what we just did with one peg, with one piece, we're gonna want to do it for many pieces. So what if you want to move the eye? You just move it. But if you want to move both the eye at the same time, you can create a peg for both the eye. You can select both your pegs and put a peg on the peg. So instead of being symbols and symbols and symbols, it's peg on a peg on a peg. You cannot move several pivot points at the same time, no. Yeah, exactly. No, right, you're right. I like to use both. For my timing, I love to use a timeline, but for rigging, I prefer to use the node view. But yeah. To adjust them in the exact same spot, I'm gonna get that in a few minutes. Be patient. So now I have this for my both eyes, but this one will need a new pivot point because it's for both. I'm just gonna take this peg, I'm gonna place the pivot point in between. I'm gonna rename it to full eye peg. And then we're gonna keep going on. So after the full eye peg, what do we want to get? We want to get the nose. So we have to think to the hierarchy. So if you want to go up the hierarchy, I cannot say that word, you have to press on B. And if you want to go down, it's Shift B. So for now, we can just go up and down one peg. But you see, it's moving with my shortcut. So there's a script to copy paste pivot points from one peg to another, but I rarely use it because when I build, I just copy paste my peg directly. And this is because I don't have animation on them. So if I take, so the next thing I want to take is my beak. So I will take my beak, go here, and you see there is no animation on my peg. So I can just copy paste it, and it will have the same pivot point as before without copying the animation. So then I'm just gonna make it higher and go get the full eye. So now I have this thing that moves my eye, this one moves both my eye, and this one will move everything under it, so the full eye and the beak. So it's very easy to build up your hierarchy with the pegs, and I love it so much. Like that. After that, what do we want to get? We want to get the mask. So I'm gonna go up again, but this time I'm gonna go up with the mask. And actually I want to move it from there as well. So what I'm doing is I'm copying the peg I want to use the pivots from to get my rig. Done. And the way to organize your rig is always to create towers. So if you're reusing the pivot of the beak, always put your pegs on top of each other so it's easier to see. And after that, I'm gonna go get the body. So the body, I'll copy paste the peg, I'm gonna bring it up. And Harmony stacks your peg really easy together, so that's great. And that's actually going to be my top peg. So it's the top of my character. So everything that is on top of the belt is the top. Everything that is under will be the bottom. So for my legs, it will be easy. They just need to have one peg together, and that's gonna be my bottom peg. Now I have my wings. All I have to do is to connect them to the top peg. And then I need to connect both these pegs together to create my master peg. And for the hat, some people like to have it in the rig, some people hate it. So I'm gonna connect it to the master directly so that it's not animated by the body. But if you want the hat to follow the body, it's up to you to choose what you want together. So if you want to have the body and the mask together, well, instead you could have created another peg of your body and connected to the mask instead, so that you can connect both your mask and your body together. It just depends on what you want to animate, so it's that easy to deal with. And if you wanted to have a peg with your body and your hat, for example, you could do that. It just depends on what's going to be the style of your animation. Alright, so I prefer to have the hat separate and the mask with the beak, like I did before. Alright, so that's gonna be our rig for today with pegs. So can I get a Heyman for that no view? How easy is it now? All hail the old view. Alright, so that's it. Now we're gonna add deformers, because you see our rig is done and it's pretty and it's compact, it's cool. Now we need to add deformers. So the deformers will be put in between the drawings and the peg. So I'm gonna take my pegs, gonna bring them up just like so. I don't need the deformer on the beak, but I need it on the body. So I'm gonna go get my deformer. I will not explain how they work because I just released a series on it. So if you want, go watch it. And yeah, so I'm just going to trace these. Make it fit a little more. So now with that, if I want to move my body, I can just do that. And all of this can be keyframed, so that's pretty cool. Of course you can do that. So I'm gonna grab my rig. Usually that's what I do. I grab my whole rig and I just put it in a box. So you can do that. Insert a backdrop. So that's one way to do it. You can even name it. Name it, please. Or you can also get a node and just write anything you want in it. There is something TB cannot do. You cannot paint in Toon Boom. That's one thing. I'm gonna add some deformers on the wings as well. I'm doing this very quickly, okay, because I'm already bored. So amazing. So now if you want to move your wings, they will move. Ooh, I'm so precious. And then for the legs, I'm gonna put some more deformers. Hell yeah! And it's ready to be animated. So I'm gonna do a very simple animation with it. And after that we're gonna color and composite it. So have a nice day, Drake. Oh, Rainier, I love the yep. Yes, maybe one day we'll be able to draw in the soft, but not now. Okay, so now if I want to animate my rig, I need to have it show it up for the whole scene, because now it's gonna disappear. I'm just gonna go to the end, press on F5 of my beautiful rig right there. So I'm gonna go on my master, I'm gonna add one keyframe here, I'm gonna go frame 21, add another keyframe, and oh, I forgot to place the pivot point on my master pig. Always put it on the bottom. Alright, so now that my rig is done, I will save and I will start to animate it. I'm just gonna make it like bounce a little bit. Gonna take the top of my body. Thank you. I'm gonna bring it down. Gonna take these legs. Oops. Oh, I forgot to rig one leg. Poor leg. There you go. Perfect. Okay, now it's gonna work. I'm gonna get that little leg to go down. So now I have two poses. Amazing. I'm gonna have it put his wings in the air. Oh, and that wing is gonna move the whole scheme. No, I don't want that. Let me just get rid of that. Yes, that's better. Hell yeah, hell yeah. And then if you want to animate it, you just press on this. You're gonna make a key, a tween. Da, 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 da. But now it's boring, so if you want to change the time, you can go here, get your little drop down, and huzzah! It's a bit more fun. And then I'm gonna take that and put it here. And voila, you have your beautiful animation. And I'm gonna make it loop. And maybe he wants to look up when he does that, so I'm gonna make it look up. What am I even doing? Yeah, yeah. And if you want to give it more life, you can even animate the deformer. So you get the picture. It's pretty fun. Now all we need to do is to put color on our little bird. I'm gonna go with some Easter color. Oh, that is so cute. Almost done. Where is this going? Yes, there's a reason. I'm gonna give you the video after that. Yes, no, right. I think you're right. I don't know. I went from 9 to 14, so I don't know what happens in between. But yeah. So now we have our bird. So what if you want to do compositing on our bird? Does anyone want to do compositing on the bird? We will do it. So that's our bird. If I want to go in my node view, then that would be my rig. Of course, we want to group it in our little group so that it doesn't take much place in our node view. We're gonna rename that the burb group. We're gonna put a peg on it, and that peg will be used by the people to place your character in your scene. There's one thing I forgot, I think. Make sure that all your pegs are in separate mode. But I have a video on that as well, so I'm gonna link it to you after that. But yeah, you have to put your pegs in separate mode. That's very important. Okay, so be sure that your pegs are set to separate. That's super important. And you cannot do it after you animate it because it's gonna break your animation. So just make sure that your pegs are in separate. That's really important. Alright, so now that I have this, I will go do my compositing. So you'll see it's very hard. All you have to do is so I'll make you vote. Do you want a shadow on the ground or lights on the character? Alright, so it's gonna be light on the character. Okay, so there's a thing that is called offset lighting, and that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, we're gonna do both, Kura, of course. So if I want to light my character, I can light it with itself, and that's what we usually do. So I'll have this thing that is called an apply peg transformation. It's like creating a copy of your character, but it's super light, and you can move it with a peg. Oh, now we have two birds. And this one could be like a, oops, like a super small bird. And since it's a copy of your animation, you will have both of them playing at the same time. What? I'll make the spotlight after, because the spotlight doesn't work on everything. I'm trying to teach things that work all the time. The spotlight doesn't work all the time. Yeah, so what we're gonna do is take this copy and offset it just a little bit. And then the place where there is no drawing, that's gonna be the place where it's gonna be lit. So I'm gonna make it a bit smaller and move it like that. The reason why I'm not copy pasting the rig is because if you copy paste it, Harmony has to read through all of that 2 times and it's too slow. If you use the apply peg, it's much faster. But I also have a video that covers that, so go watch it. And then remember when we use the cutter, so that's also one thing that I love from Harmony that Flash doesn't quite do, is that it's easy to learn because it's consistent in a way. So you have the cutter, the way it's built is what goes through here will be cut by here. So if we get a highlight node, what goes through here, instead of being cut, it's going to be highlighted. So you just connect it on your character. And then if you put this here, your image is going to light your character. So if you go into render, you see the actual effect. But we want the opposite. So you just have to invert it by double clicking. What? And then you can just adjust it so it doesn't look too cheap. That's not so bad. So you get that. And if you want to edit it, you just click here and you edit it. The radius is how much blurry it is. You can change the intensity. Leave it between 1 and 2 and you'll be okay. You can use the color of the character, or you can use your own color to make it glow of a certain color. Oh my god. So I like the green, so I'm gonna keep it green for some reasons. And yeah, that's it. That's it. That's how you light up a character easily. That's one way. Or instead of having your apply peg transformation, you could have just any drawing layer and just draw your lighting with that. But then you'd have to do it frame by frame. But hey, if you want to do it frame by frame, just do it. I don't want to do it frame by frame, so I'm gonna use the cheat. It's gonna be much quicker. Like that. And another big difference, no, that's actually the same as Flash. Remember that the gray area here is nothing. So if you render, you're gonna have that on a transparency layer, which is great. If you don't want to have transparent background, you can put what we call a color card under it, so that you get a color to appear under your, oh, that's a color art, not a color card. Yes, you get your color that appears. You can change it by double clicking here. So you see, eventually I barely navigate the timeline. I use the timeline just to animate, but I do most of my stuff in the node view because it's easier. And yeah, so that's how you would do it. Pretty simple. If you want to put a shadow on the ground, you do the same stuff. But instead I'm gonna put it under. I'm gonna put a little peg on it. And I will put the pivot point at the right place, and then you just squash it here. Like that. And since it's gonna move with your character, oops, I put a keyframe on my peg, so I'm gonna put it here, like that. And then if you want to put a shadow on it, you just get into your node library, you write shadow, and you get a shadow node that you can just do something. It's so pretty. And now I cannot see it in real time, so you can just make a quick render. So quick! 2D rendering is so quick. Hell yeah! So, are you pleased, people? So now that this project is over, I will share it, this little GIF on the Discord to make people happy for Easter. And oh yeah, there's one last thing I need to show you today that could be great for you animators. Is no, not you. I'll go get another scene. You know, sometimes what is hard with animation, may it be cutout or traditional, is when you try to use props, and these props are hard to draw, like cars or... Oh, no problems, Renee. I'm glad that you were happy. One thing that I love is... Let me just get my scene. So I had this scene from long ago with a my bird fighting whatever, and there is a sword in that scene. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna show you how to use a 3D model to clean that sword. So let me wait until that scene opens. And now, just so you can see, I have like 7 scenes open and it's still running great. So that's good. Okay, so let's say that I want this sword. Well, how convenient that I just modeled it this week for this presentation. So I'm gonna go into import a 3D model. And I'm gonna go get my sword. So I have the bird sword. Oops, and this is not the right one. You know what this is? You know what this is? This, my friend, is a 3D model of a sword. And I made it just for this stream. So I also can do 3D, guys. So so what if I wanted to reference that sword? Well, I could just have it in my scene. So I went another production in the past, and we would have to go to Blender, and just and like go get a reference all the time and open the software, take a screenshot, and then import it. And instead, you can just place it in your scene, and you can just trace it. It's so easy. Of course, it gets sometimes to get used to it because it is 3D. But then after that, if I want to trace it, you can just trace it. I'm gonna go with sword with lots of O. Put that drawing layer somewhere. I don't care. And now I'm gonna start to sketch it. But something will happen, and it's sure, is that, and now it's not doing it. So sometimes your layer will clip in your 3D model. So just make sure that you take your drawing layer with the maintain size option, and you can always make sure that it's, oh yeah, because my 3D sword is already in the back. But if I take it and I bring it forward like so, now if I want to draw, my drawing is behind. So sometimes if your drawing is like that, you can just get your drawing layer and just make sure that it shows up before, show up on front. And then if you start to draw with your brush, I want my vector brush. I love the vector brush for some reasons, but yeah, you can just start to sketch your sword, and it will always show on top. Really good to get some clear reference of what you're doing with your model. And after you would be done referencing, maybe you want to hide your 3D model and just take your drawing layer and place it back where it was supposed to be by removing the peg it was on. So I'm gonna remove the peg. And oops. I put a keyframe on my drawing. I forgot to put a peg. Sue me! No! But anyway, you would just put a peg, move that peg in space, draw, and then once you're done, you can just get rid of your peg and hide your 3D model, and you would get a nice sword. Wait, Kura, you worked on Wakfu too? So I also have a video that covers the 3D, but just to show you how easy it is. And if you want to animate it, it's as simple as animating anything else in the software. You just put a keyframe on it. Oh, and you would need to make sure that your pivot point is at the right place. But yeah, you can just animate it and place it there. So of course, if you trace it, it will look traced, but at least it just can give you like some idea of what's going on with it. To get some nice angles. But remember, the best is always to cheat, so don't trace it all the time. Yeah, that's right, you told me, but I thought it was somebody else. I always get confused with usernames, I'm sorry. I worked in a summer camp and I have to call the kids by number because I forget their names. Yeah, so that's one feature that I really love. and I use quite often when I worked on complex show. Like I'm actually working right now on some anime stuff, and it's got a really complex weapon. And yeah, so we went into 3D and we just modeled the models to have them on. So I love that feature so much. So it's good for this, and it's also good for backgrounds, but I don't have backgrounds because I'm really not good at backgrounds. But that would be good to work with that. And by the way, if you want to get colors on your model, it's possible. You just have to put them on like normal things like Lambert or something, and it works. So that's pretty cool. Let me just see if I forgot something before I go to the question part. I did forget something. So if you want to draw your character, sometimes you have a reference. You can use the model view to have that reference inside your screen. So I'm gonna get that layer so you can get you can get a layer of reference inside your scene. So that's really good when you only have one screen. Hello, Dimensional Whale. Nice to have you here. So instead of making room for a reference here, you can just have it in your software. So that's why I'm able to work with Harmony in a plane so easily. What was I going to say? I just heard my roommate laugh, and now it makes me laugh. Yeah, if I didn't work in Maya for like 5-6 years, I would go to Blender, but it's like too late for me to switch. I mean, if I was doing 3D full-time, I would make the switch to Blender, but I use it so rarely that I don't have time to relearn a new software. But props to you, Blender is amazing, and they're cool people. So yeah, I met them last year at Annecy, and they're pretty cool. They were our neighboring booth, so we chit-chat with them. They're pretty cool people. Yeah, pretty nice folks. But as much as I love Blender, I don't love it for 2D. So it's getting there, but I still think it's more reliable to do it in Harmony than in Blender. But the 3D part looks great. I have a lot of friends who use it and love it. So Blender, yes, for 3D, not so much for 2D. And then again, I'm not saying that because I work for Toon Boom. I work for Toon Boom because I love that software. Last thing, I was talking about the model view. Yeah, for the colors, palettes, a great thing is that don't forget that you can use the eyedropper from everywhere in your screen, so you don't need to import your images to get your reference. So if I get a image of a character, like this one, I can just open the image on my computer, and I can just go create a color palette from my character very quickly. You can even feed Harmony a drawing, an image, and it will create a palette for you, but I've never done it, but I've heard it's possible. You can do that very quickly to just go get your colors. You see that? That's why I like it. It's just so convenient. Yeah, oh, when switching from Maya to 2D, it's super funny because then your shortcut gets all weird and you cry all the time. At least I do. And yeah, so that's another little animation that I made if you want to see that. I love to do animation when I have free time, which I don't have a lot of, but I like to do it. Another cool thing with that scene is that I am really not good at perspective drawing. I taught it for a while. I was a tutor for my school with students that were very bad at perspective, that were failing their class. Teachers just set them up with me. I don't know why. They were like, these students are failing. You have to teach them perspective. And I was like, okay. Because the thing is, I understand it very well. I just cannot apply it. Like, I know the concepts, but I cannot apply it. So the way I drew the grid on the floor here, it's super easy. You can just get a drawing layer And then you can even go into guides, which is another window right here. And you can select a lot of perspective guides. I'm gonna go with a simple 2-point perspective. And then you can have your little guides. Like that, and you can even change the number of lines that you see to be able to draw your grid on the floor. I will not draw with white because we're not going to see what I'm doing. Very easy to set a ground for you right there. You're adding way too many gradients. Well, as long as you want to handle them, that's fine. Just be careful. Sometimes when I'm in the plane and I have 7 hours of flight to do and I'm bored and I don't feel like animating because I have a headache, what I like to do sometimes is get the perspective tool and just start to draw stuff. It makes me feel good about myself. And you can just get creative. Like, you don't even need to know what you're doing. It's just fun. What is this? A pool? I don't know. Maybe it's a house. Who knows what it is? I'm just having fun. I'm 26 years old. Let me do what I want. If I want to be a house person, a house making person, I'm gonna be a house making person. Like, I don't know where this is going, but this is pretty fun. Can Flash do that? No, it cannot. Flash cannot make me pretend that I'm a background artist, even though I'm not. It's just fun. Yeah, I also love Clip Studio Paint. I'm a big fan. You see, it's right there. I love it so much. Like, my perfect mix is Clip Studio for my background and drawing work, and Harmony for everything that needs to move. That's how I roll. That's how I do everything. And I love it. So yeah, that's it for the drawing tools. And if you want to make video games, we even have, like, there's so many things you can use. There's a fish eye. Like, who can draw fish eye? I can't. But with that you can. Like, and it's just so much fun. Sorry, I'm done with what I wanted to teach for today. So I'm just rambling right now. So just ask me anything. I see I can still go for like 15 minutes. So ask me anything. Yeah, but I basically live in a plane when there's no virus going on. I travel a lot because I teach all over the world. I teach in every country there is, mostly. I usually do the Spanish, French speaking countries because that's how I roll. But yeah, there's many things to do. So I think that's it for what I wanted to show you. And I don't know how I put that into 2 hours. That was so quick. But if you have any questions, now is the time. I had a Twitch in the past, and I might be, revisit it very soon. I understand Spanish, but I speak it like shit. Yeah, I taught in Belgium. I taught in Luxembourg, in France, in New York. I taught in Reunion Island, Japan. I've been in the Caribbean twice. I've been in Jamaica, a lot of places. Okay, so to reduce lag, there's lots of stuff that you can do actually. Okay, now I'm excited. So I'm gonna go get my super complex rig. This one. So this is a very heavy rig. It's the same that you would find in like the Tangled series or something. So it's very powerful, but it's also very heavy. So if you want to reduce lag, change the resolution is an absolutely good answer. So you can go into scene settings, and you can change the resolution. And the fun thing is that it's not gonna destroy your scene. So you can make it to a lower quality temporarily. That's one option. Oh, but you can subscribe to my YouTube and the bird animation will play. Try it, try it, try it, try it. Okay, sorry, my cat was playing with my headphones. Okay, so that's one option, but the other option is to use what we call, I forget how they're called, cache. Yeah, they're called cache. So if you go into your node view, where is my, I lost my node view again. No. There it is. Come here. Come here, you. Oh, and when you have this box, do not close it. Don't close it. Don't close that box. The black box must remain open. I don't know why, but I've been told that by important people. If I've used a master controller, of course I've used a master controller. And there is a master controller on this one rig. Or actually, I think not. It's not the right version. Crap. But I can make one just right now for you after that. So. Oh yes, that's what I'm gonna do. A master controller, because that's fun. Man, there's still 16 people watching. That's insane. I just keep saying nonsense and people are loving it. I'm loving it. Okay, so I have my rig. So if your rig is heavy, what you can do is connect a composite under it. Wait, I'm gonna remove everything I don't need. Yes, go away stuff. Because this is still a work in progress rig, it's not done. And it's pretty big. It's really big. It's a bit bigger than the, I think this part is like the bird rig, and that's all. So there's lots of pieces, but don't worry, most of it is hair. Like all of this part is like probably hair, but I think it's the terminal for making Harmony run. I don't know. It only pops out sometimes. I don't know what it is, the black box, but it's there. So if this rig is giving you problems, what you can do is get a composite, connect it under, and I think it came out with 16 or 17. You can go here in the properties and you can cache it. And when you cache your rig, this is useful if you have like 5 rigs in your scene. Oh wait, I'll catch on with the text, with the chat in a moment. So I'm not forgetting you people, I'm just focusing on this for now. So now it's cached, and I'm gonna go here and I will set it to 64/64. So you will see that now my rig looks like crap, but it will make my animation play faster. So I'm gonna go at the end because I have an animation here. So when you have a cache, your composite will have a little hat, and if you don't click on it, it will cache your character as a very low quality image, and you can change the quality here. to increase it a little bit. So just by having this a little less quality, it's gonna make your animation run very quicker. So it just needs to buffer for once, and after that it's gonna be quicker. Da, 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 da. There will be a tutorial for complex rigs like that, but like I said in my other rigging video, rigging is harder to cover because there's a wrong. You can rig something wrong and it's gonna hinder the rest of the production. So I'm going with baby steps, but stay tuned and keep watching and we'll get there. So because I don't want to teach, because I know there's a lot of tutorials on YouTube and elsewhere that will teach you how to rig, but they might teach you some very bad habits, which is what I don't want to do. So before I do a tutorial on YouTube, I always research my material a lot. I ask questions, I ask studios, I validate my information. I'm just, they look silly because I make them sound silly because that's what I do. But there is a lot of research that goes behind these videos. So for rigging, and before we go to a full 360 rig like that, it could take a while because there's a lot of stuff I need to cover, like how do we do an eye? Oops. Like how do we rig an eye? There's so many ways to rig an eye. So how do you do that? You need to know how to do it. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff that we need to do. So I'm just done covering the formers. So the next thing I'm gonna cover is how to create different parts, like the arms and the eye, because we need to be able to do that, to do your rigging. And the reason why my rig is so heavy now is because there's integrated lighting in it, so it's always lit, but I can also remove that by removing this. So now it's gonna run much quicker, but now there is light and no light. Alright, so I'm just gonna go catch up with the chat real quick. Okay, I'm all catch up with the chat. I'll get better at this. Yeah, so okay, there was another question that I forgot. What was it? Oh yeah, master controller. Oh, I'm glad that you appreciate it, Rennie, and please share it with your friends so that everybody can be happy. And like the reason I'm doing this, I'm gonna say another anecdote while I load the new scene. The reason I'm doing these videos is like, by the way, I am not paid by Toon Boom to do my YouTube channel. It's completely on me. It's my fault. It's my problem. I do it on my free time. And it's because like, I once had a friend who had a very cool rigging technique. And I was like, oh, well, can you share? And then or like, yeah, it was also a compositing technique. It was, oh yeah, can you share it? And it was like, well, I want to share it, but I don't want you to tell anyone else. I'm like, why? And they're like, well, because these other people will get better, and then that person could get a job. I'm like, well, that's the point, because if people are better at animating, then the animation industry as a whole will get better. So I just want to sprinkle that knowledge to make people better. Like, I think one of the best feeling is when I teach compositing. Like, I know how to do compositing very well. And so I teach lots of class because studios wants to go from a software to another. And when I teach, like after 3 weeks of teaching to them compositing, like some of them have been compositing for like 7 years in another software before that. So they're way better than me. So by just teaching them a few tricks, they get better than me after 3 weeks. And it's cool, like it's great. After that, they teach me stuff. So that's very cool. So I just want to make animation better because I'm tired of seeing bad animation all the time. And by bad, I don't mean bad like bad movement, just animation that could be better if people knew how to work technically. So I like to make people technically better, and they make me artistically better, which is great. So what is my take on Adventure Time rigs? They don't have rigs. A rising tide lifts all boats. That is so cute. And the other reason I do my YouTube is because my school was so cheap that I think everyone should have school that cheap. So I'm gonna teach something free. That's my way to make the world a better place. Okay, so this is gonna be our character head, for example. I'm gonna do a very easy master controller. So it's gonna have a face. And this is gonna be its face. Are you happy with that face, people? I hope you are. And then I'm gonna put that face on a peg. So what you must know with master controllers is that they must have a peg. Because you cannot, like Harmony is not gonna create drawings for you, it's just gonna move them. So I'm gonna make sure that it's appearing for all of that. Then I'm gonna do like this. And I'm just gonna create all my poses. So that's gonna be when it's looking up. Here it's gonna look down. Then I'm gonna make it look to the side. If you want to reset a peg, press on R, the letter R. It's gonna reset it to its original position. Pretty useful. So what I'm doing is I'm just creating my key poses. So looking straight up, side. And then I just need to do my corners. So this, you would need to do it with all the pieces of your rig, which is why I didn't do it yet with my other rig that I've shown you before. Like I wouldn't have time in the live stream to do it quickly enough. But that's what you would need to do with your rig. Alright, so now I have all my poses. So the master controller is basically just it's like a frame picker in a way. It's gonna pick the frames that you feed it. So yeah, it looks like Kirby. I remind you of Iron Blaze? Why? That is very, very nice comment. Comment. It's very nice, like, but I appreciate, but why? Thank you. So you have all your poses. All you need to do now is to make sure that you have your master controller toolbar. And then you can just get your grid here. And this is not new stuff. Like, it's all stuff that you can learn on the Toon Boom website. And I just feel like showing you guys this. So you choose the 3-3 grid, because that's what we have. And now all you need to do is tell Harmony which frame is which. So this is your middle. You click on this and you say it's my frame 1, because it's this one. And then you just keep going one frame further and you tell it which frame it is. If you know it by heart, you can just write the number of the frame. You don't need to be on the right frame, but I don't know them by heart, so I'm gonna do that. So you see, it's very quick to just do what you need. So making the poses is the longest, but then making the master controller, that takes like 5 seconds and it's done. And then when it's done, you give it a name. You create it. It's gonna create a script for you, so it's gonna put it in the script folder of your scene. Oh, well, yeah, that's true. He's a nice guy. Thank you, Aaron Blaze, for doing what you do. And yeah, that's it. I have a master controller, peeps. Yoo-hoo! How hard was that? Tell me how hard it was. So for small things like that, it's actually super easy to do it. And if I wanted to do one just for my character looking from left to right, you could also do it. Actually, I'm gonna do it from up and down because it's easier. Just gonna, you just need to have your frames like that. I'll tween it. I don't even need to tween it, I don't remember. So I'm gonna select my frames like that, and instead of creating a grid, I'm gonna get a line deformer, or a line master controller. You just decide what's their frame range. So you could, if you highlight it, it's gonna select it automatically, so that's pretty cool. And yeah, my slider. I have a new script. And it's there, so I'm gonna hide the other one. Oh, I made it on the opposite side. Oh no. It's okay, you can just put a peg on it and invert it. Yay! I just broke Renee. So like I say all the time, it does come at a price. Like, it is pricier than Flash, but with all the things that it offers you more, well, that's why I wasn't scared to buy it back then. Like, I have no regrets whatsoever of buying that software. There I am, selling that software again. I cannot stop, but I love it. And that's why you came. You wanted to see what it could do. Well, that's what it can do. So let's see what I forgot. I'm gonna go into the views and see if there's something I forgot. I did forget something, Jesus. I did forget something, and it's very cool. Why did I forget that? Let's say that I'm drawing. Yeah, because you had lots of questions about rigging, so that's why I jumped to rigging, but I forgot to talk about traditional animation. But I have a video on that, so you can just watch it. But if you're drawing, and you have a very shaky line, you can go into the tool that is called pen settings, and this is a stabilizer just like you would find in Clip Studio Paint. So it's going to help you stabilize your line. You have the average, or you have the pulled string. So it's very great to do your drawings. So I have this scene that I did yesterday. Oh wait, no, not this one. Where is it? I think I lost it. Oh no, it's there. So if you draw in, you get your pen setting. it will just make it easier to draw as a whole. So if I want to trace a clean version of that character, I could have a much easier time doing my cleanup. By the way, if you press on the keyboard shortcut O, you can click and drag to change the size of your cursor. And you can clean up your character easier. That little triangle. Yeah, so now I'm cleaning with the brush, but this is more for short film or feature animation because it's cool, because it's very precise, it's very traditional. But usually in series we're gonna clean with the pencil tool, because the pencil tool offers you more flexibility with compositing and with your line in general, because you can change things after they're drawn, so that's pretty great. So yeah, this is mostly why I love that soft so much, and I hope that you appreciate it. And now I will go eat. So maybe like 10 last minutes of questions, and yeah. So I think Harmony is really fun to do traditional animation as well, because for example I had that scene that I animated yesterday for fun, and you see my drawings have little colors on them. This is because I identified them as oh, by the way, if you want to find something, if you click on something in your camera view and you want to find it in your timeline or your node view or anything, you can press on O and it's gonna center on it, just so you know. So I have my keyframes and my breakdowns. So then if I go get my two favorite toolbars, which are flip and mark drawing, you can flip between your key poses. And then if you add your breakdowns, you can flip between your breakdowns. thank you, Miguel Angel Fernandez Tudela. That's really nice. Thank you so much. I've never done an 11-second challenge, but maybe I will. Who knows? Yeah, so it's very easy to switch, and if you want to make a drawing in between two, you can just click here on the next drawing, and if you press on Shift J, it will create space in between your two drawings, allowing you to then draw. And you can even choose if you want to have your drawings always be 2 frames long or 3 frames long by going in your timeline, in exposure, and changing the hold frame value. So there's so much things you like. What I love about this soft is that it is pretty beefy. Like, there's lots of stuff you can do, and the team is just amazing because there's always putting new features in. They're listening to the community so much. So yeah, I cannot wait to see where this soft is going, and it's really fun. And if you want to clean up that character, you can even right click, add a synced drawing layer, and you see it copied only my timing, but this is all empty drawings. So then you can just draw your cleanup, and if you move this one in time, your rough will also follow. So that's pretty great, right? So I hope you had fun, and I'll see you on Wednesday on another tutorial video that I need to start making right now. So yeah, so for the last 5 minutes, I would like to know what you would like to learn in the next following weeks. Yeah, I think the stream, I will be able to put it back on YouTube in a few days. Yeah, sure. So I'm gonna leave you with that animation, and I thank you all for coming. Actually, I'm gonna make a quick I'm actually going to share on where am I gonna share it? On Discord, I think. What are the key differences between Flash and Harmony so that you can remember? But the thing to remember is that symbols are not used in rigs. You should use pegs. Instead of putting things in a symbol, you put them on a peg so that you can get a very nice hierarchy, just like this. Always align your nodes. Your life will be easier with that. And if you are interested in learning the little trick that I always do with the eyes, I almost always put my eyes on pegs because it's just easier to manage after. I have this little trick in another video, so feel free to go in my videos. They're like 5 minutes long. You can watch them on the pooper and have fun. Thank you for liking the bird dance. I did this last summer for fun. So feel free to follow me on Twitter and on Instagram. I don't have a phone anymore because it died, so I don't go on Instagram that often, but yeah. So now I'm gonna give a shout out to good instructive things, so you can go into the Toon Boom website to learn. There's a lot of free knowledge there. Yeah, there's a lot of things you can learn there. That's where I learned a lot of stuff prior from being hired. So it's a lot of free knowledge, and I hope that you're gonna like it. I also want to give a shout out to my good friend, Mr. Onion Skin. He has a wonderful channel full of very cool videos. And he's actually the one who pushed me to do my YouTube, so I want to give him a shout out. He's really cool. Go get that sweet, sweet knowledge. He's weird, but he's cool. I'm weird too, so that's alright. Yeah, so these are two very good things you can learn from. And we also have an amazing Discord channel. So if you go to Discord, I'll put the invite in the chat if you want to join. So there's lots of channel that you can get help with, and people are very nice in general. So just come and hang out, and you get some very cool people to answer your questions. So with that, I will now say goodbye and leave. It was really fun. Oh, you want the certification from the page? Well, you can do it. Oh, and Gabrieleros asked if I did any other community animation apart from the Sonic one. I actually did. I'm gonna link them in the chat so you can go see that. I did some for Sonic. I did some of Starbomb. So I have the Starbomb clown as well. I keep forgetting all these because I just have so much fun doing them, and after I forget about them. So there's this one. I have a Ninja Sex Party one coming soon. with our sweet, sweet Dan. Can actually see that one on my Twitter, so there's lots of stuff coming, and I have lots of collab coming as well. So how do you join these? Actually, I was called on them. I like most of them I didn't find them, just people invited me, but I guess you get invited to these, or you can find them a lot on Twitter, I think. If you want, if I find one, I'm gonna share it with you. So just I think you, yeah, I already talked to you on Discord, so I'm gonna give you some sweet links, but I'm gonna share them if I see some. So this one was part of David Toombs' animated music project. He makes a lot of them, and that's really cool. So yeah, it's really fun to do these kind of projects. So I hope you enjoyed. Let me just give you the link to the Discord, and after that I'll close the stream. So everyone, have a nice day. Thank you for coming, and it was really fun. And I look forward to the next video and the next stream. Let me know what you think in the comments below. And it was a first, and maybe there's gonna be more. So have a